What's up, YouTube? This is part two. Part two of What's up, YouTube? This is part two of John McAfee. John McAfee, CEO, is coming clean, stealing millions, and John McAfee's passing. He's talking about all kinds of good stuff, man. This is coming from Matthew Cox YouTube channel. Y'all go check Matthew Cox YouTube channel out and see some of the great stories that he's actually putting together. If you haven't seen part one, check out part one. This is part two. Let's get into it. We're gonna do a reaction to it, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a breakdown for myself.
You know, they were super professional and nice about it and talked me out of, you know, the gun. And then I admitted myself into a mental hospital.
For how long?
3 days.
All right.
3 days in a mental hospital there that time. But there's a lot to this story.
Right.
But I went there for 3 days and then disassociated myself with McAfee. I was so pissed. But my wife stuck around. And I was so mad. I kept telling my wife, I was like, what are you doing? Like, come home. Like it's over. Like, you know? Right. And I don't know if she thought maybe that I would never regain myself or come out of that or what, but the money was transferred out of my account. I lost everything. I lost everything in that moment. And I can remember, well, the money's gone. She took that, she took this. So I'm going to call McAfee because I know this evil dude has done something to me and my family. My life was destroyed because of this dude. But I take full responsibility. On the other, it was me that did all this. It was me that brought my wife into this to be the accountant and everything, right? To do the trades. So, and we were doing massive trades, millions and millions of dollars, and we were transferring to my account to his trust fund, which is considered money laundering, wire fraud. When that original money, as you know, Matt, more than me, more than anybody, is considered fraudulent or whatever that is, right?
Wow.
Well, why are they? Why was it ultimately considered? Because he's kind of like a pump and dump.
Yeah.
Or?
So when you're doing all that, you don't. I mean, for me, as I was doing all this stuff, I never once considered it. I'm doing something illegal.
Right.
I'm doing a racketeering scheme. I'm committing conspiracy. But what was later explained to me was that money taken, that's considered inside trading when you have the up and leverage on somebody, when you have the big, the eagle eye on the crypto game, and you're putting your millions of dollars into this crypto, and then announcing it, even though McAfee would say, do not invest in this coin. So part of me is like extreme ownership that goes, I did this, but another part of me is like, bro, because I've had people say, you stole millions from grandmas. I'm like, bro, your grandma
is not investing in
unless she
crypto.
like had the IQ of Elon Musk in a basement in front of 5 screens when cryptocurrency was like $5 a Bitcoin. I guess I stole millions from her, but I highly doubt your grandma was playing this game. Everybody that was playing this was extremely rich, way better than me at crypto, right? But I had that edge and that leverage, and so obviously the coins that I was picking, I was putting money into it.
Right.
But that's considered insider trading. McAfee would argue that and say, no, Michael Jordan doesn't wear a pair of Jordans and then announce, I'm getting paid $10 million to wear this right now on a commercial.
No, he says they're wonderful. This is amazing.
And but he's getting paid millions to wear those Jordans. Right. Well, John McAfee would argue that, and this is how he justified it to me. He was like, Jimmy, if people don't know we're investing in this, they're stupid. They're idiots. Like, of course we're invested in this. Like, why wouldn't we? So that was the justification. And
well, I mean, he could just come out and say, listen, man, there's this new coin. We've invested a lot of money in it. It's great. Like, I don't see why that would be illegal.
This is amazing because what he's saying is basically John McAfee, because of his name, John McAfee, the name, he couldn't have invested in anything. Like he said earlier, he said bananas. Dude, John McAfee has just dropped X amount of dollars in bananas because he knows because of his name, John McAfee's name, if he go out and say, I got an inside source, whatever, saying that John McAfee has invested into this coin, everybody and their mother will invest into this coin because they following him. And by the time all these people invest, that brings the value up. Then John McAfee will pull his money out, and it's still sitting there, and everybody want to know why. It probably went, but it, the stock market goes up and down, so it probably went down a little bit. But so many people invested, it kind of holds its weight while they pull out their money, a profit. Wow, that's crazy.
He later said, when he started getting some heat from people, he said, of course I'm investing money. Like, I'm investing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Are you crazy right now? But the DOJ doesn't like that. The Southern Manhattan District doesn't like that. And crypto touting, insider trading and stuff. And so me and John split ways.
Right.
I know John owes me 30% of everything. And so I know all of his stuff is in my name still. I like the cars, the houses, everything. So I have this massive, major leverage over John McAfee. So I think, okay, I'm going to call John McAfee. I got my feet kicked up on a blackjack table, smoking cigarettes in a casino, and I'm like, hey, sir, I just want to tell you something. He goes, what? And this is the first time we spoke after. And you never talked to John McAfee like this, and he always won everything, right? I mean, he won about everything. But this time I knew I had him, so I said, sir, I just want to let you know something. He goes, what is it, son? I said, I'm gonna freaking steamroll you. Do you understand me? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I think you forgot. You owe me 30% of everything. Okay, I want that. I don't want any, but I don't want your cars and your houses. But I think you made a big mistake with me. I own you, John. I own your cars. I own your houses. I own everything about you. I said, so I'm going to steamroll if you don't pay me in 24 hours.
What?
And he goes, are you done? And I was like, yes, sir. And he was like, now you listen up. And I was like, oh God, what could he have done to win? There's nothing, right? He says, your pretty little wife. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, she signed everything over to me with a power of attorney, with your power of attorney. He goes, do you understand me? And I go, yeah, I am so sorry about what I just said. I said, wow. I didn't mean I was going to steamroll you. We're good, right? I said, I know you're a fair man, Mr. McAfee. I'm like, backtracking. And he goes, now this is what I'm going to do. And I was like, oh, I said, please be easy, sir. Please be easy. I'm sorry for saying what I just did. I lost my freaking mind. I was like, I should have known better to go up against McAfee. You don't ever do that. And he's like, okay. He goes, I'm going to do what I think is fair. And so he sent me a little crypto, sent me some of the gold and silver that he gave me. He gave me half of his gold and silver. I only got like a little bitty pot of gold for my shortcomings. That's why you need to have the whole story when you when you freaking go after the McAfee,
So what? So I mean, what? Your wife had a power of attorney over?
Yes, in the military, you always have your wife have a power of attorney for like 2 or 3 years. Yes, man, it's the stupidest thing in the world. Stupid. And so I call her up. I said, baby. I mean, I'm almost homeless at this point. I'm like, baby, I go from a multimillionaire, partying in Ibiza, Spain with Russian oligarchs and gold-plated like jets, to a spray-painted gold man, doing all this weird stuff, dancing, to like freaking in my truck with my pistol over here, considering like the worst case scenarios. I called my girl. I said, baby, how could you do that? Like, why? Like, and I later found out through something I call amnesty. I give people amnesty, and that's a great thing for your listeners. Like, hey, if you ever want to find out the truth, just like in the Marine Corps, they used to just put out a red box, and they used to say, it's amnesty time for 1 hour. Oh. You have 1 freaking hour. You could pull a body out of your barracks room, grenades, AK-47s, all your drug paraphernalia, whatever it is, out of your barracks room, put it in this red box. Doesn't matter what it is. In the hour of amnesty, you are free. You are pardoned for life. There is not one thing that can be done to you. But after that hour, after 1 second after that hour, if you have something in your room, It is freaking game over. Amnesty period is over. You're going to freaking Leavenworth, you know? And that's how they used to get a bunch of stuff out of, people pull some crazy stuff, mannequins out of the room, weird stuff. Anyways, so I gave my wife amnesty. I didn't want to. And she told me everything. So I can't say it online. I can't say it on air or it wouldn't be amnesty. But I gave her amnesty just to know the truth. And she knew I was a man of my word when it comes to amnesty, at least. Right. Maybe I was a piece of crap in a lot of her other areas of our life. And I had everything. I deserve everything that happened to me. There's not one thing that I don't deserve that happened to me. Because, you know, you might not understand. I may not understand the cryptocurrency, conspiracy, money wire fraud, all these charges that were levied against me after being on the run for 2 years. I may not understand those. But just like I told the FBI, why didn't y'all arrest me for something I did do? Like I thought it was going to be different. Like there was all these different little micro things that I did in the dark that I was like, well, touche, right? Like maybe it wasn't for this, but it was for this, right?
So why do you go on the run? You've mentioned that a couple of times.
So
like when did the FBI come? Is it because the FBI can't showed up or?
So John McAfee all of a sudden gets arrested. And I've got this, I don't know, man. You know, I don't know if you can relate to this, Matt, but you know, when you kind of can feel something coming down the pipe.
Yeah, your intuition.
It's your intuition. And it's like this ominous presence of this storm approaching. You can smell the rain, the density, altitude, the pressures change. You're like, oh, a little ringing in my ear. Something's wrong, right? There's this, and I felt this dark, heavy presence around me quite often. And I just knew something was coming down the pipeline. And all of a sudden, there's big news that John McAfee is arrested. About the same in Spain.
Right.
Okay,
what was he arrested for?
The main thing was basically like Al Capone, the tax evasion.
Okay.
That's right. And he was bragging. He never lied. John McAfee don't lie. And he had a no bluff policy, something I developed because of him, a no bluff policy. And so basically everything he ever said was pretty much what was going to happen or true. And one thing he said was, I don't pay my taxes and neither should you. Now, when he said that to 1 million followers, I thought that's one thing he's lying about because there's no freaking way he would tell the public that if he wasn't paying his taxes. Well, he really wasn't. Right. And when they arrested him, I go, my God, the guy was like literally not paying taxes, millions of dollars for the last 6 years and bragging about it and telling you don't have to. It's not constitutional. You know what I mean?
I've been locked up with lots of those guys.
Yeah.
The whole time they're locked up for the 4 or 5 years, they're screaming, you can't do this.
You can't do this. It's like
they never ratified the whatever. You know, we've met many of these guys. It's like, yeah, okay, but they've got the guards and the prisons and the barbed wire, and they're going to make you do 5 years, whether or not it's right or wrong or whatever happened.
Wow, that's crazy. That's true.
John taught me some really bad habits and bad things.
That's true, man. If you constitutional or not, it's hard to say. I mean, it's not hard to say, but think about it. I have a cousin of mine that did 12 years in jail, and he said he believes that he was done wrong because they didn't read him his rights. When they arrested him, the police never read him his rights. A lot of people think that before the police arrest you, they must read you your rights. That is not true. Before they question you, they must read you your rights, not before they arrest you. The only reason why people think that is because of Hollywood. Now, I know this is a whole side story. I just want to put this out there because you all need to Google this, you need to research this, and you need to understand this for yourself. Don't go by what you assume. Don't go by what you think. The police do not have to read you your rights. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say they don't have to do that when they're arresting you. Before they sit you in a room or sit you down and start questioning you, they have to read you your rights before they question you. So he did 12 years in jail, and he came out, that was like 10 years ago, and he still think that the government did him wrong. The jail system did him wrong because they never read me my rights. I should have never did any time. He did 12 years and he's still thinking this. So if you feel as though that you don't have to pay taxes, or you feel as though you right and you look things up and you swear that this is right they still own the jails. They still own everything. If you right or wrong, we putting you in jail and you're going to do this time. So who's right? Got to obey the rules of the land, man. And you got to obey what they say. Think about it. You got to obey what they say or you going to jail.
I learned, like, I got my McAfee black book, I call it. I wrote down it. It's like all these rules of the game. And one of the rules was you never accept mail. Like, John was only subpoenaed one time because she caught him in a keynote speaking thing. And she goes, "Hey, John." And she turned it out in your natural reaction. And she goes, "You got served," you know? So we never accepted any mail. And so I developed this habit too. And, you know, I think there's something in the Bible that says, you know, when you're accused of something, make sure you go to the magistrate as soon as possible. You know, try to settle the matter as soon as possible, lest they take you before the judge and the judge throws you in the jail, and you're going to serve out the maximum amount of time. And so, of course, the FBI start calling my phone. The FBI start calling, you know, "Hey, this is Special Agent so-and-so. We'd like to speak to you, Jimmy, just as friends. You know, we just want to speak to you." You know? And I'm like, I'm out of here. And
We've heard a lot about you.
We've heard a lot about you. You sound like a great guy. And so come meet us at the office. They even wanted me to meet them in D.C. and all this crazy stuff in New York. And so I'm like, oh my God, like, John McAfee's arrested. I'm the CEO. I'm freaking next. I'm out of here. And I remember 2 agents called my phone, and they caught me off guard. They said, "This is Special Agent John and Jack," you know? And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, I said, "So I'm just supposed to fall for this?" Like, "Oh wow, I can tell people I'm Special Agent too." I was like joking with them and stuff. I was like, how do you have, like, so how can you prove that you're FBI to me? I was like messing around with them, and I was probably high or something. But they were like, "Well, we went to your house and your sister answered the door." I said, "That ain't good enough." I said, "What'd she say?" She said that she was told by you to never speak to us. And I go, "Oh my gosh, oh, Sarah, man, my sister, man, ratted me out." And so I'm out of here, man. And so I roll. And so I'm like, okay. And so I actually told the FBI, I said, "Yeah, so when do y'all want to meet? What date?" And they were like, "Well, let's meet on Saturday, next Saturday at the office here." I said, "Sounds good." So what time? "Okay, sounds good." I got on an airplane and I freaking bounced to Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, and started doing work out of there. Started doing some crazy stuff. And but I lived in Medellin, Nicaragua. Not lived there, but I was doing work out of Nicaragua, a communist country, in El Salvador, and then I started living in Thailand.
So what do you mean doing some work out of there? What does that mean?
Doing some work, you know, doing some mercenary stuff. You know, there's a Blackwater contractor
for the U.S.
There's a Blackwater contractor, which is a very defensive contracting. You're a contractor for the state. You're not a mercenary, you know. But then there's like mercenary, and it's more of an offensive role. It's more of a no joke, like you're getting paid the highest bidder, you know. And so, I mean, it's not what you know, it's who you know in this game. And if you're an ex-SEAL or a Special Forces guy and you want to go down that dark rabbit hole long enough, you're going to make connections, and then they're going to make connections, and then finally you're going to
How many phone calls is it to get to that connection? 3 or
4?
2?
2. For me, it was 2. You know what I mean? It was 2.
The further down you are, the more calls it takes.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
The guy with the voice like, "Hey, bro, come on, let's go do this." And so, did some pretty sketch stuff, but I lived there in Medellin, and then, man, I'm just on this sabbatical. I'm just doing. I'm blasting coke. I don't care about anything. I'm just
the wife?
All this money. Oh shit, we broke up after she used the power of attorney on me, man. We're done. Okay, it's over.
Well, I know we don't get to know what he did, but I'm assuming he had something over her or convinced, like there's something enough to make her feel like she had to sign.
Yeah. So in the color of my amnesty thing, I can't say what she did, but. And I can't even allude to that because I want to be amnesty. But
that's fine.
But what I saw in the red box that was turned in, you know, it was like, but I was like, but amnesty was worth it to give to her because it gave me the relief of knowing, okay, that's why you did that.
Yeah.
And as you know, people always do things in return for something for something valuable, you know. That was hard.
Right.
And but every time I would get mad at that, I would look back at my own actions, and I've learned to do that. I just look in the mirror every time I get triggered, every time I get mad, anytime somebody on social media is like nah, 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 and says something, and if I do get angry, which is very rare anymore, I go look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, why did that make me upset? Is it true, Jimmy? And if it's true, I need to dig deep in there and pull that out and say, why is that bothering me, or why should that hurt me? And really, when I do that, I've learned that's a very cathartic way of just letting. And so, very rarely does anything mess with me anymore. It's kind of a beautiful thing. And sharing love and forgiveness. I have a lot of love and forgiveness now.
Wow.
So
that's good.
Mercenary, sketchy stuff.
Sketch. Don't stay in school, kids. Don't get tattoos. Don't.
And then you go to Thailand. Why Thailand?
Thailand, every man's got to go on an adventure. Every man's got to fight some type of battle, 3/4 hours, and every man's got to rescue his beauty from the castle, from the dragon, slay the dragon, right? And that's why guys get in a lot of trouble when they go after the wrong or right girls, whatever. But one of those core desires is obviously go on an adventure. So I wasn't done.
Right.
I was like, I had a lot of money still, a lot of crypto, cashing out crypto, liquidating crypto, 10,000 here, 10,000 here, 10,000, and doing my work on the side. So I had plenty of money coming in. It wasn't going to last forever, but I was like, I'm going to ride this like a Harley into the sunset until I just burn in. And so it wasn't all that fun, but I was definitely doing crazy stuff, big parties, always extravagant parties, and partying on my own little parties, and then partying with a lot of people. But I end up meeting my Russian girl from Moscow in Spain.
For some reason, I thought that you were married to a Russian girl before.
American to Mongolian Russian.
Okay.
Straight up from Genghis Khan, yeah.
Where did you go to in Thailand, though?
So I meet her in Spain, and I'm so fly by night. We go to dinner, and she's like, I went to Thailand. I went to this place, Koh Phangan, Koh Samui, Koh Phi Phi, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, let me check that out. And she's like swiping her phone like this. And she's like, you got white stuff in your nose. I'm like, don't worry about that. I'm just a mess, man.
Right.
On our first date, I was trying to look clean. I had
Wow.
white stuff all in my nose. She goes, do you have in your nose?
Right.
And, you ain't lying to Russians. Americans are like, oh, it's flour? And you're like, yeah. Russians are like, what the heck, man? Get yourself together, bro.
Right.
Drink some vodka. Stop snoring before you go on a date. And so she's scrolling through her phone like this, going through, and she's showing me this beautiful island, Koh Phangan, but it takes forever to get there. So I'm like, let's go immediately. I have Xanax in my pocket. I'm going to take him on the airplane to sleep on the way there. So we go to Thailand. I lived there for a while, do Muay Thai. Now, I didn't fight professionally, but I was doing Muay Thai, and I did not want to fight after that professionally because my instructor, he had scars all over his face. He had like 300 fights. It's crazy, like a fight every couple of weeks in Thailand. I mean, they're kicking each other in the face. So I figured, okay, I don't want to be kicked in the face. But it was great training. It was great to be there. So I know my time is coming to an end. Every time I go through the airports, especially in South America, Colombia, all these places, Nicaragua, San Salvador, all these places, I'm getting pulled out of customs, and I'm always going as a surfer or volcano watcher on these different missions and stuff. But I get pulled out of customs, and I'm like the only gringo. Everyone, you're like, I was like the only gringo getting pulled out of the line, and sometimes the only gringo, but I'd get pulled out of the line, and then my bag would be taken, and then they would take my bag, the same thing every single time. And I would be sitting there in a room for about an hour, and I'd be sweating. I was just like, oh God, I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to keep it cool, keep it cool, keep it cool. So they would always come in, and I would just act so cool, so oblivious, like, yeah, oh, is everything okay? Y'all need anything else? You want me to stay longer? I would always play that game. And they'd be like, no, everything's okay, Mr. Watson. Have a nice flight. It's okay.
What do you think's happening there?
So this happened multiple times. Later on, I found out that it's the freaking FBI literally tracking me every single move, laying out everything in my bag for some reason, and then they would photograph it. And then, because I later found that out, because the FBI showed me, they're like, check this out. And all my stuff was just like Like they just saw every.
So did they not have you indicted at the time, and they're just trying to gather evidence for
Yeah,
indictment?
just gather evidence. And I'm thinking,
because if they had you indicted, they could just arrest you.
yeah,
Okay.
no indictment yet. They're just following me, just taking pictures of me, watching me. There'd be people that I'd run into a couple times too many in Colombia. It's like Medellin is a big place. And I'd run into the same guy, white guy. There's not many gringos there. And he's like, oh, hey, what's up, brother? And then he would leave his phone with me.
Wow.
And then see me a week later and say, hey, you got my phone? I'm sorry, I left my phone with you. Do you have it still? And I'd be like, no, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't have my phone? I'd be like, hell no, bro. And I took that thing and dumped it in the river. Like, and I ran into him several times. One time I said, hey, bro, I got to go, man. It's weird I keep seeing you, huh? And he goes, yeah, it's weird, bro. So I get up and I go to my place and then I J-hook him. I just stop it on this dark corner, and he walks right past me, and I grab him. I say, hey, bro. I said, it's weird. I thought your apartment was this way. You told me you lived that way. He goes, oh, my God, man, I totally messed up. I'm just so confused. I'm like, dude, I got to get out of here. So I would move, routinely like that. Whether they were casing me for drugs or maybe I was selling big dope or something there, whatever the case, they were looking for something. And I was always uneasy. I was as paranoid as John McAfee had become. That stuff is contagious. And so I'm just on the run. I know that the FBI are coming at me.
What's happened with McAfee at this time?
McAfee's sitting in a Spanish dungeon.
Okay.
Wow.
Spanish prison, sorry. I always call it a dungeon. I mean, he was in terrible, terrible condition and shape. There's pictures of him and video of him. And I felt tragically sad for him to be stuck in that prison. After knowing him, after knowing how incredible his storytelling abilities were and how smart he was and how much he had to give just to kind of burn in like that and be sitting in a prison like that, waiting extradition. And I know he was fighting his extradition, trying not to be sent back to America to stand trial. Well, just like, who is it? John Dillinger went back to see his mom one last time. They say all outlaws come back home to see their mom and they get killed or go to prison, right? And so I'm like, I got to go back home. Like I get this idea,
Right.
It's not that I'm running out of money, but I was just like, I almost wanted to get caught. I almost wanted to end it.
Yeah, it's hard to do what you're doing
Yeah.
forever. Unless you have an inexhaustible amount of money.
Yeah.
And even then, most people just can't break ties with people. It's just across the board.
You can't break ties. It's very difficult. We're human beings. We need that connection, our love, our family. I had my mom, I know, was missing me. They were getting letters all the time. They're getting subpoenas all the time. I got so many subpoenas. I got real estate agents sending me photographs of subpoenas on my front door of the houses that I own, like, and they're just like weeds are encroaching. I got neighbors sending me pictures on my phone. I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Like, it's just crazy. So I know they're trying to get me, trying to contact me. So I end up going home to Dallas, Texas, and I immediately buy a one-way ticket to Bali, a non-extraditionary country, which is there's no such thing.
I say that all the time.
There's
guys,
no such thing.
Guys are always saying, like, bro, when you were on the run, you should have gone to a non-extradition.
Stop
up,
bro. It's not.
Yeah, they're gonna come get you. Extradition.
It doesn't, bro. That's
right,
ridiculous.
right.
They could get you anywhere, anytime. They just do a deal.
Right.
With the government.
My understanding, having been arrested with plenty of guys that were in their own country that are non-extradition, and you're a citizen, and they came and got you. So I already know. But I mean, the thing about extradition is when you call the local authorities and say, arrest this guy for us and bring him to the airport for us. Non-extradition means they call them and say, we're coming in and getting our fucking guy.
Yeah.
Don't come in this neighborhood. We're going to be there for the next few hours, no matter who calls. And they go, yeah, man, of course. And they just come and grab you, drive you there.
Yeah, because they have deals with the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, but people don't understand. They think they
No.
believe everything
They
they watch
know.
on CNN, and they think the justice system works the way it does on Law and Order.
Plus, everything you're Googling, where are the top 5 non-extradition countries, And that's on your Google sheet in front of the FBI. They had everything on me. And so I go, but here's the problem.
Wow.
They say a Navy SEAL is avoiding capture, avoiding arrest, avoiding us. He's must be a threat to society, armed and dangerous, and he's on the run, evading, right? So those two things combined, oh man, it was about to hit hard.
Yeah, they don't want you in their country now. You sound like you're dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. And so I come home, I see my mom, I buy this ticket to Bali, I get my visa. I had to get some visa or something. I'm like 2 days away from leaving. And I go out and get coffee with my mom to say bye to her for the last time. And it was pretty heart-wrenching because I was sitting there saying, Mom, you know, I got to leave now for a long time. And God bless moms. You know, their sons are always innocent. They're always the best son ever. You know, they're like, I can't believe these pieces of crap are coming after you, Jimmy. I'm like, me neither, Mom. And so I stand up and I go with her. We walk back to her car. I can remember this peace came over me. I was like, what, I take a Xanax or something? I had it. And I'm walking up to our car, and man, this black SUV just pulls up and slams on the brake, and it dang near almost ran over my foot. Like I remember it was so close. And I thought, dude, it's the mob or the law. Somebody to harm me or arrest me, either one. I honestly didn't know what it was, and all I could do was grab my mom and push her behind me because there was a guy just he was hitting the window with his gun, and he cracked the door open, and he said, Jimmy Watson, like real loud. And I just was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, it's me. And I just put my arms out like this, flat out. And man, they just swarmed on me, probably like 15. I always say 15 FBI agents. I think it was around 15, maybe more, maybe a little less. But the Dallas SWAT team was there, cordoning off the whole area because of those two factors, you know, armed and dangerous, which I wasn't, bro. I wasn't doing nothing. I was glad to be caught. I was done. And so there was a big sigh of relief when they arrested me. And
That's how it always
I
happened.
I don't go to court or nothing. They just transfer me to, I don't remember going to court or nothing. They just literally transfer me to the county the next day. 2 FBI pick me up and bring me to the Burger King. I get this sandwich at Burger King. Like this, like they said, we got to do this for you or we wouldn't do it, but we have to buy a hamburger for you here. Make sure you remember this. And I'm like, and I don't even get to eat it. You know, I'm in handcuffs. Like, can you take these handcuffs off? They're like, no, you got your hamburger. I'm like, dang. And so I get transferred to FMC Fort Worth, which is a federal prison for all kinds of offenders. You know, it's for medical and all kinds of. The Tiger King was there.
Right.
And so that was weird. I was watching Tiger King on Netflix incessantly, like all the time while I was on the run. And now here I'm serving time with the Tiger King to the next pod.
That's crazy.
And my first 4 days were in the hole in the shoe because it was during COVID and I didn't know anything about the shoe. They're like, I guess we got it. They couldn't put me in a cell with this black guy. I don't know why. But they said, nah, you don't want to be in there with him. And so it looks like we're going to have to put you in the shoe. And they were like, actually got concerned about it. And I was like, oh, what's the big deal? So put me in there. I don't care.
Right.
After 4 days in the shoe, I was like, dude, there's no freaking way. Like, I was like, what was that?
All right.
Like, I couldn't believe how inhumane it was. And there was a guy when I got...
Some guy, yeah.
Bro, when I transferred out of the shoe, I'm in this big holding cell, and there's this black dude next to me, and he's sitting there with his head down. I go, bro, that was terrible. He goes, how long you do in the shoe? And I said, 4. He said, 4. I said, 4 days, man. It was terrible. He goes, 4 days. He goes, I just did 3 years, homie. And I was like, no, bro. I was like, what? No. I said, 3 years? I said, they treat us like dogs. And I'll never forget. He says, no. He goes, dogs get to go outside and piss.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang.
Yeah, dogs actually they actually get more square footage than you do.
Bro, 3 years inside that place that I was in, man. It was like a basement. That FMC Fort Worth looks like a castle. From the outside. It's like, oh man, huge brick walls, scary looking place.
Wow.
And so I go in front of a Texas judge after 5 or 6 days, and everybody's like, oh man, you're gonna be in the feds for a long time, brother. What you did. I'm like, oh man, dude. I'm like, oh, like I'm already thinking, okay, who do I gotta gang? Like all these movies and stuff, you know, okay. Like who do I gotta join? I'm not gonna be one of these dudes that like don't join something or do something crazy, you know? And And I remember this.
It's for like what's the charge? Like money laundering or
There's
wire fraud?
8 felonies for conspiracy money, but it was a lot of money, and it was
Right.
I was a leader in the organization. I don't know, man.
But I mean, yeah, but typically money launderers don't go to like
Yeah,
a
I
pen,
know, right, right.
So you don't know that going in.
I don't know
You're thinking,
anything,
oh my
man.
God, they're going to send me to a pen, and
Yeah.
that's not where you go.
No, thank God, man. And so I do like 6 days in this like castle looking place, and they transfer me. I go in front of the judge for the first time, and my lawyer's like, Jimmy, this is serious. You could be going to prison for 15 years, 12 to 15 with this money. With the money, I go, no freaking way, bro. I'm like, no, man, 12 to 15 years, dude. I said, for what? And he's trying to explain these crypto charges and all this stuff.
Wow.
I paid him 50 grand to tell me I'm going to prison like 1,000%. Like he said, if you had a dice, Jimmy, I paid him 50,000. And the second I sent him the second 25 grand check,
Right.
he literally goes, Jimmy, I want to tell you something. And I said, okay, what are we going to do? Like, what's the defense? He goes, if you put a 1 on a dice with 1,000 sides, and you rolled it, he goes, and it hit 1, you're doing about 2.5 years. I said,
That's the best case scenario.
I said,
Wow.
did you cash my check? He goes, I just cashed it. And like literally cashed on his phone in front of me like this. He goes, okay, you're going to prison. 1 in 1,000 chance you're good. And I'm like, it's over for me, bro. And he said, it's going to be more like 12 years, Jimmy. But I promise you're probably going to get out at 8 or what. I still don't understand the different numbers. It's like, but if you do 15, but the prisoners got it down in the face.
yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
oh, what'd you do, man? Okay, 15. No, you're going to do 12. Okay, but you got good time. You got all these points and all these crazy
yeah.
math system,
You're going to get this much off for the first chance act. You can do this, you can do this. You're going to get this much halfway house and
Wow.
ankle break. Break him out of here in 3 years.
Yeah.
your
And then
lawyer's like still getting it wrong.
Yeah, and they even told me when I first joined, they go, are you a child? And I said, no. I was like, hell no. Because I watch these movies and so I'm like, hell no, man, what's up? And they're like, calm down, bro, Turbo, And I'm like, all right, okay. And then I'm like, I'm in my rack and I'm like, hey, man, I ain't no child molester, man. And he goes, yeah, I mean, they're going to figure out anyways, on your paperwork. It doesn't matter what you tell me. I get you. I go, well, not that I am, but what happens to guys that are? Because, why'd you ask me that? Obviously. And he's like, oh, man, well, once you get transferred out of here into a bigger place, you're going to get up on the yard if you're child molester. I was like, dang, these guys don't have a chance in here, child molester. It's over, man. That's what they told me. Anyways, man. You did 13. Like, you're probably like, dude, this guy doesn't know anything about these feds. I'm like, I don't know shit, dude. But
It depends. Honestly, the funny thing is it depends on what prison you go to. You know what I'm
does,
saying?
right?
It does. Like some
there's
people,
probably all kinds of stuff, yeah.
yeah. Like you could go to a medium. There are mediums that are basically like pens, and there are pens that are run practically like load. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That are that soft. Like it really depends. You could go from Coleman low to like Yazoo, and Yazoo's low is fucking horrible. Like people are getting there's gangs that are fighting, but you go to Coleman's a soft spot. I mean, bad things are happening, but bad things happen in high schools. Coleman's like a rough high school. You mouth off enough to people, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. You may get things happen at Coleman, but nothing like Yazoo. Yazoo just comes in. You go into Yazoo and it's like who knows what could happen. You mouth off, you look at somebody fucking weird, like just give them a dirty look. And 5 minutes later, the guy walks up behind you and cracks you in the head with a fucking lock. And you never saw it coming because, you just didn't expect it. You didn't think you were in a tough spot.
Dang.
Or they tell you, like if you were a child, like you can't go into the TV room. Like in Yazoo, they don't even want you looking in the window of the TV room. But in Coleman, they would try and keep the guys out. But every once in a while, they would come in and stand there and watch 20 minutes of TV, and then they'd leave. Or, it wasn't a big, huge deal.
Yeah.
So, and in Yazoo, if you're like a sex offender, you're probably not walking the rec yard. If you do, you better go with 5 or 6 other sex offenders. In Coleman, these guys they call them, chomos. They have cho bands, they have cho soccer teams, they have cho. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
You can't keep them there. In the medium, they never leave. They had a special unit for them, and they never left the unit. They never went on the rec yard. And when they did leave, they went to chow. They ate last. They let them out last. So after everybody's gone, they go into the line. They go through the whole line, get their food, eat real quick, go right back in the unit.
Dang. Because they could be stabbed, yeah.
Yeah, they could get hurt. And like nobody's necessarily telling them to do that, but every once in a while, one guy will wander onto the yard and he gets the living shit kicked out of him. And it's like,
God, man, he just wanders out there just aimlessly.
They don't know any better. They're like, oh, well, why can't I go? Well, nobody knows I'm a sex offender. I just got here. It's like, yeah, bro, they already know.
They already know.
Yeah, the guards might even tell them. You know?
That's what I got from my gist of my little bitty itty time there when I was sitting in the cell. The guy was like, dude, they know everything about you. The guards are passing off your paperwork. I was like, dang, this is a complex system, and they research you out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So what happened when eventually you go. So what really gets down to it? Like you've got to.
So they want to transfer me to upstate New York, the New York division.
Is that what you were
DOJ.
Indicted out of?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
I was indicted out of New York. So I got to go stand in front of a Texas judge, arraignment, to fight my case to stay or leave. And my lawyer's like, I don't know, Jimmy. You've been kind of on the run. They're probably gonna transfer you upstate New York, right? And to pending trial, waiting for John McAfee to come. So I'm waiting John McAfee to get extradited, to lose his extradition case and come back to the States, and we're going to stand trial together, they said. Well, so I go in front of a Texas judge, and he goes, wait a second. What'd y'all say he was? He's a SEAL? Veteran? Nah. He said, we don't do that this south Mason-Dixie. I'll never forget. He said, we don't do that this south of Mason-Dixie. And my lawyer's like nudging me like, oh, this is good. This is good. And the DOJ is like, oh my God, like this cannot be happening in Texas. He goes, put this boy on house arrest. He said, you ain't going nowhere, are you? I said, no, sir. No, sir, not at all. He goes, right, okay. He said, $5 million promissory bond. And he said, restriction, ankle bracelet, looked like R2-D2 on my ankle. Man, when they latched that thing on me, my life felt like it was over because I was so free. I traveled all around the world. I was selling in around Visa, mercenary work here, doing all this crazy stuff, this free bird. And then they just put this big, modern day chain on me, modern day fetter. Mm-hmm. That's all it is a big ankle mark. I heard they were getting watches now, but they put this thing on me. Super restrictive. I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And I'm basically waiting to die because I know I'm going to lose my case.
Right.
It's like a 98% chance if you fight it, it's over.
And your name's on everything. Like
your name is on everything. Like there's no trying to explain but I really didn't know that it was wrong. But
it doesn't matter.
When they explain it to you, you go, I think I was wrong, but I wasn't thinking, because you're not thinking like that when you're doing things wrong a lot of times. Right. Maybe if you're like plotting to go rob a bank, you understand it's bad. But when you're like doing insider Pelosi trading, you're like, no, this is cool. Let's pass this law right now and make millions of dollars. Nobody will ever really, it's not going to matter. Let's just do it. Everybody's doing it.
Right.
And that's never a means of justification.
Right. Well, I forget the Latin word for it, where it's basically you have to have knowledge of a crime to commit a crime. That's actually in the feds. That's like not a thing.
No.
So
it's kind of in the conspiracy realm, right?
Yeah. It's people
You're
are
part of it. You send a text message.
Right. It's like saying I didn't. Yeah, I understand that this guy asked me to make a phone call or give this person money, but I didn't know that was a payoff for that person to go, commit a homicide. Right. Yeah. Like I didn't know that was going to happen. It doesn't matter that you didn't know.
Yeah. It doesn't matter that you were oblivious to it if you were, in fact, oblivious to it, right?
Yeah.
Not knowing the law is not an excuse to get out of what you did wrong. I didn't know stealing that car was against the law. I didn't know that.
Tough.
Oh, I learned some hard lessons there, man. I started learning the legal system about this stuff, and I was like, man, life comes at you fast. Right. You know what I mean? You just like Britney Spears' ex-boyfriend that's working at McDonald's now, at Burger King right now,
Right.
Anyways, so I'm sitting on house arrest. This is where the story gets absolutely insane. If people are hanging on right now, I go on house arrest. I'm there for a year and a half, and I'm waiting John McAfee to return from his prison in Spain. I hear, so all of a sudden my phone just blows up at my house, and I'm on house arrest. I can't leave. It's really restrictive. My all these text messages. Bro, you hear about John McAfee? Bro, you hear about John McAfee? John McAfee, yeah, John. And then my lawyer calls me, and I go, what? And he goes, Jimmy, are you sitting down? I was like, oh, God, what? He said, it looks like they found John McAfee in his prison cell hung. He goes, I don't know anything else than that. He said, this could change things for your case, and it may not, considering how long they've been looking for you and how much time they vested into finding you and stuff. He says they generally don't give you a free pass because of this, but we'll see. I say, okay.
What?
You know, this is where, you know, I lose a father figure in my life. Although my dad was this loving, awesome guy, you know, big shoes to fill. I lose John McAfee out of my life, even though we had some problems. You know, it felt like I lost.
You didn't want to see him die.
No, of course not. You know, yeah, he had some demons, and yeah, he had some dark stuff going on. But I loved him for what he had done for me. If there was any good. Like, because there were some great times, there was some beautiful times, and there was some lows, and so to lose him, I was like, man, and then I'm facing all this time, and I'm facing 12 to 15 years in the feds, according to my lawyer and according to others, and so man, I'm laying there in my bed one night on this little mat my parents put out there for me. Super embarrassing. What am I, 40 years old now at the time, 39, 40 years old. And, you know, I had all these dreams and aspirations, and now I'm just pending going to this federal penitentiary, the unknown. I mean, it was super dark for me.
Right.
And I mean, and after all my time, I was super depressed, and I just wanted to end my life, honestly. And so I woke up I couldn't sleep. I just was up at 3 a.m. I'll never forget it. I just started crying, these tears on my pillow, and I just screamed out. I remember my mom saying, if you're ever in trouble, scream out the name of Jesus, like in battle. And I had heard guys scream that out before, and I saw them die. A couple in the hospital. I remember a guy calling out from his mom while they were working on him, and then a guy calling out for Jesus. And these guys literally died in the hospital in front of me. There was a sheet there, but you could hear them screaming. It was terrible. A grenade went in their turret. But I remember just my mom saying, "Scream out Jesus," and so I screamed out. I said, "I'm not asking you to get out of prison. I know I'm going." This is before I found out that McAfee had passed away. So a little bit before that. But I said, Jesus, I know that I'm going to prison. I'm not asking you to get out of prison. I'm just asking you to show up in my life. If you're real, if you're real, if you're part of my life, I want to feel something. And I cried out from the bottom of my heart, man. I'm not even joking you. And the very next day I get a call, and it's this guy, and he's like, hey, you want to go to Operation Restore Warrior, this nonprofit for veterans? And I said, who? And he's like, you put your name down months and months ago, long time ago. He says, do you want to go to Operation Restore Warrior? It's a nonprofit for veterans. It's a Christian-based, like, spiritual thing. And I'm like, brother, I'm on house arrest. I'm going to prison probably for 12 years, man. I'm sorry, you know. And he goes, well, we don't judge. You know, I was like, okay, but the judge ain't gonna let me. The Texas judge, the real judge, ain't gonna let me. He goes, well, why don't you ask him? He was pretty, and I go, you know what? I just cried out at 3 a.m.
Right.
Here it is, 8 in the morning, and this guy calls me. I'm just, so my lawyer goes, okay, let me see. The Texas judge is like, oh, yeah, that boy from that veteran, this South of Mason-Dixon, yeah, let him go for 3 days. God bless that Texas judge. He allows me to go to Operation Restore Warrior for 3 days on the ankle bracelet, all that stuff. I show up there, and long story short, these guys are like, you ready to meet Jesus? And I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, man, but I mean, this is insane. Like, yeah, I'm not going to meet Jesus here. He goes, yeah, well, you're going to meet him, and he's going to tell you exactly what you're going to do for the rest of your life. He's going to give you purpose. I mean, they're so confident.
I know.
And I'm like, guys, I don't know if you noticed my skinny jeans, which are pretty atrocious, and the ankle bracelet monitor that's on right now. I was like, I'm going to prison. You know, I know you don't know anything about me. They didn't know anything about me. And they said, yeah, well, have faith. And I said, you guys don't really tell people that they're going to meet Jesus here and he's going to speak to them. I mean, I was amazed at their confidence and boldness. And the guy goes, 100%. He just stared at me. And I go, okay. And I laughed at him. And so I walked outside with my ankle bracelet on. I walked down this little path, down this, in Baltimore on this duck reserve. It's a beautiful property. And I'm walking down this thing. I'm just glad to be out of house arrest. And I walked down this road, man.
Wow.
And I cried out again my second time. I said, okay, God. I said, if you're real, I'm not asking you to get out of prison, not asking for anything. I'm just asking you to show up in my life. And so I go back inside and they said, hey, Jimmy, these two guys want to pray for you and talk to you. And they look like cops. I don't have anything against cops, but I was real weary of law enforcement by now and stuff. And so they sit there with their notepads, and they're pretty prim and proper, and I'm sitting there in front of them, knee to knee, and it's making me nervous. And of course, I ain't gonna say, I don't want to say anything. And they're like, Jimmy, tell us your story. And I'm like looking around for cameras, and I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, but you kind of remind me of police officers, and I don't feel comfortable. I'm not going to say much here. Just want to, and so I start skimming around my story, being vague about my story, very vague. And this guy, he looks at me dead in the eyes, and he goes, and I skipped the part about McAfee in the big ship-sized house, and he says, "You skipped part of your story," and I said, I looked at him, I said, "No, I didn't." Like super confident, I go, "No, I didn't." Like bluff, And he says, "No, you did. You skipped part of your story." And I said, "No, I didn't. Let's move on." And he says, was the part you skipped at, he goes, the love boat or the love shack? And he called the house that McAfee had was a big ship. Like that.
Yeah, he said like.
I called it the love shack. He called it the nickname that I called it. And immediately, if I said something about you, Matt, that was deep in your past that nobody really knew about or you couldn't research out or a nickname, it caught my attention. And I stood up and I said, well, I guess we're done here. And they said, where are you going? And I said, bro, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm a fragile man, and fragile men do stupid shit and crazy stuff. I said, I don't know what kind of game you're playing here, but I don't know how you know that. I said, but I'm out of here because you're not being honest, and that was scary. It scared me. It scared me. I said, and they said, no, Jimmy. They said, sit down. This is what we do here. And I said, and I just looked at him and I thought, okay, we'll play this game. I said, okay. I said, if you know so much about me and you just identified a house, you were lucky. I said, tell me more. Tell me then. I'm not going to say nothing. If you know about me, I'm done with this interview. You tell me the rest of the part. And he goes, and they looked at each other, and the guy nodded like, okay, go ahead. And he goes, okay. He goes, when you walk through this door of this love shack or love boat, he goes, there's a jacuzzi on the side, on the right, and then you walk up these 3 steps, and there's a screen door, and then another door, and you walk in. And I said, and it was so accurate, I just couldn't believe it. I go, and? Like, that's not good enough. He says, okay. And there's a gray metal door, and there's a fake door that covers it. There's an armory where you keep all the weapons. And I said, okay, let's go. More. I don't care. That's not good enough. He says, okay, you go up the stairs. There's an elevator and a cherry door covering the elevator. I said, tell me more. He goes, you go up the stairs, and there's these rooms, and he goes, there's these grid coordinates. Or I said Latin longs. I corrected him, you're wrong. It was Latin longs. And he goes, okay, Latin longs, these numbers and these names, Tahiti, Thailand, on all these rooms, just like the Love Boat. And I said, tell me more. If you know so much, tell me more. He says, okay, you go to the 3rd deck. There's 3 decks. He says, and there's this massive, and he's trying to visualize this. He says, there's a big ship steering wheel. That's what it is, ship steering. And I go, and I'm shaking because there was a massive ship steering wheel in front of my office, like a real one, and I'm just kind of starting to shake, and because I'm just I'm not in reality. I'm am I having a psychotic episode? And I'm on house arrest. I know I'm on drugs, and so I said, tell me more. And he goes, okay. He says, he said it overlooks a sound, and that's the sound I told you about with Blackbeard. He says, and then there's boats that come up in a canal to the side of the house, and there was boats that would come up to the side of the house, and all I can say is tell me more. And I'm in his face. I'm probably spitting in his face. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm yelling at him. Tell me more, bro. If you know so much, tell me more. Like up in his face. And later on, he said he was scared, because I got this ankle bracelet. I'm up in his face, angry. I'm angry because I don't know how.
These feel,
this is
feel
crazy.
like this is like two feds that were in a raid that had gone in the fucking house.
Right.
Like this is two FBI agents
Right.
and they lured you to this place.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking these guys are cops and they're playing some kind of sick game on me. And so that's what's going on in my head. So I keep telling them, tell me more. And I yelled one last time. I said, tell me more. And this is the last time I ever said it. I said, tell me more. Like, you motherfucker, And he's like, there was a path that you used to walk down behind the house alone. And when he said that, I mean, there was a path I used to walk down and cry out to God.
Right.
And for some reason,
Wow.
that triggered me so hard, man. It hit me so hard that I just fell back into my seat like this with my ankle brace and all, and just snot started coming out. And I just cried like a baby for a long time. And they said, it's going to be okay, Jimmy. It's going to be okay. Jesus is letting you know that he was with you on that path. And man, it could have been a lot of other places they could have said, and it would have been pretty cool, pretty weird. Mm-hmm. They could have guessed my birthday. That would have been cool, all these different things. But identifying a path that only I would walk down.
Right. That they couldn't have learned about.
That they couldn't have learned about. And that was very specific. It wasn't just telling me about a thing in my life. It was a very specific, sentimental time where I would walk down a path and I would look up at the stars and wonder, is there a God? Like, God, help me. I was always kind of lonely and lost after some things in my life, traumatic things.
If you look back, to be honest, as he's telling this story, I'm actually looking back on some things that happened in my life personally, and only I know, and only God knows. And he helped me. He said, don't go to him. Go this way. In fact, don't just go this way. Run. And keep running until you reach your destination. In other words, you can walk fast to take a rest, but I'm going to tell you when you need to run again. And I got away. I kept looking back, and I think that I wouldn't be here today if I didn't do what God told me to do. That's what I think. So I'm thinking about that right now.
And so when they identified that path, I fell back in my seat. They prayed over me, and all I could say was, I could barely speak. I go, how? And he goes, I don't know how. He said, I just know that Jesus told me to keep answering you until you believed. And man, that's
he
what it
believed
took
a long
for me
time
to
ago.
believe.
You know what?
He believed a long time ago.
Well, up until the end here, it made me think of that. I'm sure you've heard this story about the guy who's he's in a town, and the town's it's flooding. You ever heard that? Like the town is flooding, and everybody's there evacuating the town, and there are people driving.
God would save me.
They're driving by in Jeeps and SUVs, and the military's there, and they're like, "Hey man, it's man, you got to evacuate. Get in the Jeep." And he's like, "No, God's gonna save me. God's gonna save me." And then the water gets up so far they can't drive anymore, and he climbs up on the roof of the church, and then the boats are going by, and there's boats going by. They're like, "Get in the boat, come on!" He's like, "No, God's gonna save me. God's gonna save me." And then it keeps going and going, goes up past the roof, and he climbs up on the steeple of the church, and a helicopter comes, and he says, and they're trying to lower a basket, and he goes, "No,
Wow.
God's gonna save me. God's gonna save me." And they finally take off, and then eventually it gets so high that he ends up drowning. And then when he gets up to heaven, he says, God, I thought you were going to save me. What happened? He goes, well, I sent a Jeep, a boat, and a helicopter. Like, what did you want me to do? Like, that's like for your story. It's like there are all these signs, and you're just going, no.
Yes. Yes. You know what? It's funny because I heard the signs. And it's funny that he told that story, man. God dog it. I'm going to tell y'all right now. I have seen the signs, I heard the signs, and I have ignored signs. Knowing that there were signs, I have ignored signs. And I told God about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago when all this started happening. Real talk. I'm being real with y'all. I said, okay, God, this is a sign. I understand the sign. This is a small sign. Ain't no big sign. It's a small sign. But to God, it's a sign. There's no level on it. But us human beings, we put levels on it. Now, I said, you know what? I'm going to let go and let God. You take the wheel, Lord, and I am going to keep myself out of it. And I'm going to do the best I can. Just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I might make one mistake, though. But tell me what to do. Yeah. Yeah. That's deep, man.
Yeah, no way.
Like, what did you want me to do? Like, that's like for your story. It's like there are
all these signs,
and you're just going, no.
Yeah, no way.
See this?
You're trying to determine
I mean,
the
what
signs.
you expect? They're calling
how
you on the
you
phone.
want you to
They
think.
got you down here. The judge sent you to the fucking thing.
It took so much for me. It took so much for me, but I wouldn't dare. I was actually terrified to say, "Tell me more" one more time. It was like when he identified that path, man, it was game over for me, because what I realized is no matter how many dark places I had been, no matter how hard I tried to run from myself, no matter what corner of the world I was in, doing mercenary, doing all kinds of dark stuff, God was chasing me down. Some people go, well, that's great, Jimmy, you found Jesus. I'm like, no. You must have not heard what I said. He found me, brother. I didn't find him. He searched me out from the lost and delivered me from a terrible pit.
Yeah,
that's what happened to me.
Sounds like you were running from him.
I was running from God, but there ain't you can run from yourself. You can run from the law like I did, but God is in every dark corner.
So, I'm sorry.
No, basically, directly after that, the same guy said, I see a chessboard, Jimmy, and basically your case, whatever case is going on with you, is going to be dismissed. I said, bro,
You're
I
crazy.
said, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. But certain things happen. McAfee was found dead in a prison. And then all of a sudden, my lawyer calls me, and believe it or not, the guy that revealed all that stuff about the house in that dark time, he says, I got a word for you when I was leaving after 3 days. Bro, I left a new man. I was still going to prison. But I was like flying like an eagle. And as I was walking out, he said, I've got a word for you, checkmate. I said, what's checkmate mean? He goes, just checkmate. It's like when you play chess and win or whatever. I said, okay, I'll hold on to that, but I'm going to prison. And I also heard God say that I would be a lighthouse unto his people. You know how they promised I would hear from God? I actually heard that, not in an audible voice. I can't explain it. I just know that's what I heard, like a lighthouse. I'll be a lighthouse to his people. So I go home. I'm thinking I'm going to be a lighthouse in prison. I'm going to be a preacher in prison, all this stuff, because I was still thinking along those lines. But when I came home, my lawyer calls me when I'm back on house arrest. And he says, and the first thing he says is, Jimmy, checkmate. And I say, Arnold, what'd you say? And he goes, I said, checkmate. I said, what does that mean? he says, "Don't you know? Haven't you ever played chess, man?" And he goes,
Everybody know what it
"Never mind,
means."
forget it, brother." He goes, "All it means is your case is getting dismissed." And I said, "Jesus told me my case was going to get dismissed." You know, I sound like I went to church camp with mushrooms. and I'm like, "Jesus told me my case was going to get dismissed." He goes, "Jimmy," he goes, "Man, I don't know about all that, but say a prayer for me because I have never seen this in my practice as a DOJ guy or defense. I mean, you know, in considering your case, I have never seen this particular thing happen where they're willing to do that."
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, the death of McAfee definitely weakened their case to such a degree that it may or may not have been possible to prosecute you. So that was a huge gain for you. But I've also, things like that happen, and they'll still go, most of the time they'll still go forward, but you'll get a much better deal. Like, you're not going to do 10 or 12 years. You might still have to do a few years, but dropping it all together,
dude.
So did the FBI ever come and say, "Hey, can we sit down and talk to you?" Like, so you could just explain that, because a lot of times they want to wrap up the case. Like, look, like, we don't really need information. We can figure it out, but they want to talk to somebody, or did they have enough other people that they could talk to?
No, they had so many, man. They had everybody. My lawyer told me that they had they didn't name any names, but I knew from the stories that who it was coming from. It was coming from my ex, coming from some other guys that were.
So they can put it together.
I fired a lot of guys in McAfee. You know, he was always like, "Fire this guy immediately. He's dead to me." You know, and so you become the terrible enemy, right? So I was kind of an enemy of guys, and so from what my lawyer was parlaying to me, it was like, "You're screwed, bro."
Yeah, but I was gonna say, because
I'm thinking, what? They said that about me? I was so mad, man.
But because you're
betrayal,
because you're a bad guy, they've all. Like, once again, then that just strengthens the government's case, because they've got. Listen, I know guys that had 3 people get on the fucking stand, and they get found guilty of dealing, 100 kilos of that they've never seen. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because 3 guys got on the stand and said, "Yeah, he was there. Yes."
Well,
yes.
that's what happened with the Blackwater thing that I was part of. I was part of the Nisar Square, and it's crazy, you know, when you start rising in social media. Not that I'm famous, nothing like that, but when your name is known enough for people in the airport to go, "Jimmy, what's up, Touchpoint Nation?" You know, then people are going to look at you from your past and say, "I'm going to make him a villain." You know, you are what you say I am, you know, basically you are what you say I am, like Buddha, you know, basically projecting, right? And so what happens sometimes is, like, the 4 guys that were under me for the Nisar Baghdad's Bloody Sunday, they went to prison, right?
What is that? I don't know what that is.
In Blackwater, there was a major terrible event where 17 civilians got killed. I was the team leader. I decided to go out that day. Now, I have a gag order on me that I can't talk about the actions that I did that day or whatever. But the point is these guys eventually went to prison for 17 counts of violence with a machine gun, an old 1920s law. This is federal to Blackwater guys. They didn't know how to prosecute these guys for war crimes. Now, what really put these guys in prison is Jeremy Ridgway, basically turned state's evidence, totally, just like you said. Jeremy Ridgway, this guy, he testified against all these guys unnecessarily. In my eyes, it was unnecessary to do that to these guys, and totally just destroyed these guys on the stand. Like, he did this, he did this, he did this, right? As a team leader, I refused to speak to the FBI. They showed up at my house I refused to speak to the FBI for 7 years. Now, eventually in the SEAL teams, they forced me by compulsory immunity. They said, you're getting full immunity, but you need to come in and tell your story. Well, the FBI thought I was going to testify in a way that helped bolster their case.
Right.
Boy, when I testified under immunity, it didn't help the DOJ. It bolstered the case, the truthful case of the Blackwater guys. Of course, I didn't see much, but, it's all public record, But when you have a guy turn state's evidence, Jeremy Ridgway, and then you have 50 Iraqi civilians that are flown in from Iraq and say all these atrocious things. And then the third and final thing, what do they call a witness that doesn't testify? and defend himself. They call him a freaking inmate. And so terrible lawyers, defense lawyers, big money shot lawyers, giving these poor Blackwater guys that were under me terrible advice not to defend yourself. They just sit there for years of litigation and trials and just sit there and weren't able to defend themselves based on their lawyer's advice. And I probably would have taken the same advice because, what do you do when you're high, top dollar defense lawyer is telling you don't say anything. They should have defended themselves to the max. Well, they didn't. And of course, it was rife with prosecutorial misconduct. But after my testimony that didn't collaborate their truth, the DOJ's truth, they came after my SEAL career like never before.
Wow.
And the last time I testified in the Blackwater case, there was a mistrial, and then I testified one more time. And that time, I was the CEO of John McAfee's company. And so then I'm wrapped up in a whole nother FBI case. Coincidence? I don't know. That's the one thing I did tell the FBI. I said, guys, don't you think it's freaking weird that you guys have come after me twice? They tried to bury me because of my testimony for the Blackwater guys. After my testimony for the Blackwater guys, they literally sent a letter to my command saying I was lying on the stand. I did this, I did this, I did this. They were pissed at me that I wouldn't work with them. And so, lo and behold, 2 years later, I'm caught up in a whole different thing with McAfee. And I told the FBI, I go, guys, who do you know besides your friends that you work with, your colleagues in FBI, that has this many run-ins with the FBI on 2 different cases? And they were like, we assure you, Jimmy, this is not related. And I'm like, well, I really pissed off the FBI. I did this, And and maybe it wasn't related, but just very, very strange coincidence. They said, all we know, Jimmy, is you need to write a book and grow tomatoes after this. Too crazy life. So I agree with them on that,
So do you? Wow. What do you think happened with him?
Okay, what do I think happened with McAfee? When
he's in the prison cell, he says like 2 days beforehand, he says he tweets or something that he's like if I die,
he had a tattoo whacked like I'm not gonna kill myself.
Right.
Like make sure everyone knows. There's no freaking way he killed himself.
You don't think?
No, because I go back to my first reaction. Like when my first reaction to when my lawyer called me, I didn't go, somebody killed him. I just said, no way. No, not John McAfee. The guy was an Irish hard bastard who would never go out like that. Now, could he have been severely like depressed? He's not on any drugs or anything. Maybe he had voices telling him to. But my point is John McAfee was what do you call it? A sensationalist? I don't know if that's the right word.
Narcissist.
But he was a narcissist too.
Narcissist almost never killed himself.
Okay, that's a great point. A narcissist who loved attention from the media. So you find out the day you find out you're getting extradited from the Spanish to America, you lost your case, but you're getting to move from your cell out. And the media's going to cover you. It's a new place. You don't kill yourself an hour after you find out you're leaving your cell.
Yeah. Plus, he doesn't know. Like this is what killed me is that, and I get it. Look, I get being in that situation. I know guys that got 2 or 3 years in prison and just thought their world was over.
Yeah.
So I understand when you come from up here and you drop all the way down, you get extremely depressed. But the problem is that. He had high-priced lawyers. He had the ability to fight his case. I would have thought that he would have come back, fought his case. Like if was in the cards, then he would have at least waited until he got sentenced. And honestly, the case is questionable. They may have offered him some kind of a deal. I know they're saying 12 years, and understand that's where you fell in the federal sentencing guidelines. But most likely they would have gone in and said, look. We'll get rid of this. We'll do this. They could have offered you some kind of deal. You probably could have ended up with 5 or 6 years, which still would have seemed like your life's over.
That for me would have been over.
All right, but you would have been out in like 3.
Yeah.
And you would have been. And by the time you actually got in prison, you'd have already done a year and a half. Yeah. And you get in and you'd be like, shit. In 6 months, they're going to put me in for a halfway house. Like this is not that bad. And you would have gone to a low. You'd have been the toughest guy at the fucking low. You would have run the track and played softball for a year.
My
And you'd
100 man makers a day.
yeah, and nothing. It was a big
That's
joke. But yeah,
But it's
so,
interesting how we mentally like,
well, you know this. You suffer more in your mind than you ever do
you
in
suffer
reality.
more in your mind. Yeah. Cause when it comes in like a flood, you just seem worse. So I that's why it's so important to talk guys out of and stuff. It's like, bro, no, think about it. In a year from now, you could be with the girl of your dreams. You could be making money, all this. That's why I do with my coaching program. I'm like, dude, you don't understand. You have a whole life to live. I have literally been, pounds of pressure, 2 pounds of pressure off of a 3-pound trigger on a gun. And I just shudder to think if I would have done that, considering what my life is now. But no, I don't think McAfee killed himself. It's hard for me to imagine somebody going in there and killing him, but that's extreme because I knew John McAfee and I don't think he would do that. I don't. Possible.
We'll never know unless somebody retires someday or comes out and says, "Listen, I was a part of the team that." But
it happened. But he was found in his prison, so I don't know, man.
Yeah,
maybe he just gave up.
He was hung, right?
God, dog, man, that's hard to think, man. Have you ever had thoughts of committing suicide? Have you ever had thoughts of taking your life? I gotta say, yeah. But what makes me push on is I don't know what's on the other side. What makes me push on is I had a brother who committed suicide, and nobody would have ever thought he would have committed suicide. I got a ex-coworker who recently, Mr. Think He Know It All and all this stuff, he committed suicide. Veterans Affair, they trying to raise money to stop veterans for committing suicide. And the guy who got me the biggest video shoot deal in my life, this guy committed suicide. I couldn't believe it. He had a beautiful little daughter, and he loved his daughter and talked about his daughter to death. He committed suicide. John McAfee, probably, it's hard to speak on it. He probably committed suicide because he knew, well, you know what? I'm tired. I'm going out. I don't want to be in this cell no more. I mean, this day is my worst day of all days. I don't want to be in this cell. I did everything I wanted to do. I'm done. I'm just going to end it right here. Boom. If he would have waited and rethought and rethink what he was doing and maybe got some type of different type of news for that day, because you're going to have ups and downs in life, man. You're going to always have ups and downs. Right now, we're coming up. So right now, for me personally, my life has been going like this. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So when I hit a rock bottom down, I look at all the stuff I have and say, well, Lord, thank you. This is a test, and I appreciate the downs. You need to learn how to appreciate your downs, because the downs help you really enjoy the ups. It make you really enjoy and appreciate the ups.
He was hung with a rope.
Yeah. Which is funny because they're not extremely available in prisons.
Yeah, like weird, right?
No, it's not on commissary.
Yeah.
See, he was hung with a rope.
What are you
Think
doing
about
now?
that.
I am doing, I run a full tribe. I really believe in the tribe mentality. It's all men's group. It's men are congregating from all over.
And that's another thing. You know what? McAfee, with all the money in the world and everything, I'm going to get this rope. I'm just weighing out both sides. They're going to think somebody killed me. And I'm going to get this conspiracy theory going. They're going to think somebody killed me because I'm going to get this rope and everybody knows that. How in the world he got this rope? Because one of the guys killed me. Yeah, all that.
Men coming in from Canada, Austria, Australia, but mostly the United States. And it's so important that we have a tribe. So if anybody wants to come in and have that life-changing spiritual experience, break bad habits, wake up with a spirit of excellence, I do 2 calls a week with all the men there, and we've got an awesome networking, awesome resources, and guys that come in there. Sometimes they're millionaires, sometimes they just got out of prison. We don't judge, and they come in there, and I've got all my mindset courses in there, all my workouts, my Frogman Warrior workouts. But the meat and potatoes, the most exciting thing I do is those 2 calls with the group of guys a week.
What are the people that are coming to you? Is this for like business, or is this people that are struggling?
Yeah, it's people who want to up their game. It's people who want to make more money. It's it's men who want to completely radically do that. I call it flip that switch in their mind to go from like slave servant, always succumbing to all their fleshly desires, addicted, alcoholism, to mighty warriors, to more than conquerors through the power of God, waking up every day knowing and understanding. It's all a mindset shift, understanding that you have a bright future, and here are the tools. Here's the way to go about it. Here's the way out of this situation, and to lead them out of that storm, just like that lighthouse mission. My whole mission is to bring guys back in, to reignite that fire purpose in their life, to give them a new beginning, right? The whole purpose of the lighthouse is not to get them to the lighthouse, is to get them past the lighthouse to the harbors, so they can actually experience a whole new world. And that's extremely possible. And we've had many guys, a part of the Touchpoint Nation now, have life-changing results, especially when it comes to their family and spouses.
What do you have, like a website? What's
it's jimmywatson.co. So www.jimmywatson.co, or go to Mighty Warrior 24, my Instagram, social media. Come on over. I've told my story many times, and I tell kind of a rendition, just like the lighthouse. It goes round and round and round. But really, man, my mission now is to literally radically change as many lives as possible, because I have a good memory, maybe not of school or this or that, but I have a really good memory of pain and suffering in my deepest, darkest times. And when I think about those times, I think, dude, I know what it's like. So no matter how good my life is now, no matter how much money I'm making, how well I'm doing, because I've been fully restored. My life has been radically changed with a beautiful wife. I got a little baby, a beautiful 8-month-old son, a big descendant of Genghis Khan. I've got all this, and I've got a lot of success now coming in. I live in Miami, but I'll never, ever, ever forget those dark times of being a lost ship in the night.
So the I almost said chick, the Russian woman you
the
married
Russian woman,
in
she'll kill both of us.
Spain. You guys went to Thailand. You stayed with her.
Yeah.
Then you come back to the United States. You get in trouble. You go through all this shit.
Yeah.
And she stayed with you the whole time?
She stayed with me the entire
that's not
time,
American,
bro.
No,
American women would never do this.
Never. You'd be done.
This girl.
You'd be done. They'd be like, you got to do 30 days? Yeah, listen, I'm sorry.
This girl was hardcore. Yeah. You go, oh, I'm sorry, 2 days? The weekend? Nah, I'm sorry. Got to go. No, this girl, Anastasia with 2 eyes, don't ever make a mistake, has stood by my side. I mean, we were FaceTiming at night, in the morning, like on house arrest, and that really helped me get through the whole house arrest thing, 1.5 years on house arrest. And she's been such a strength in my life, man.
Hey, you guys, appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, if you like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Please share the video and leave a comment. Check the description box. We're going to leave all of Jimmy's links in the description box. Hit the link, go there, subscribe, follow, do all the things. Also, do me a favor, please consider joining my Patreon. It helps Colby and I make these videos. It's $10 a month. We put Patreon exclusive content on there. Really does help us. So once again, thank you, and I appreciate you guys watching. See you.
Matt Cox, ladies and gentlemen. He is amazing. I have to be honest, man. This story has changed my life. You notice and understand the mind of a millionaire. If you are in a situation where you can grow to make more of an income, like us YouTubers, if you're in a situation where you can grow, you have to start finding ways to humble yourself and understanding why God is giving you this growth. You have to understand why the Lord is allowing you to grow, because He is asking you to help His people. He is asking you to help others, not do negative things. You have to understand that the devil has a hold of people also. You know what kind of person you are. If you are a get back person, I just want to tell everybody, yeah, I'm gonna show everybody I can do this. Nah, boo boo. If you're that type of person, then you know what side you're on. There's no gray area. Does that make sense? There's no gray area. You know, I know that I've been put on this earth to help people. That's all I do is help people. I'm always giving. I have given so much, and I'm begging the Lord to give me more so I can bless people. I have already changed my mind on all my wants. My wants, if I can think of all the wants, 100% all my wants, it's not even cut in half. It's cut down to 20%. My wants, it's cut down to 20%, which means 80% of my wants is going to be to help other people. That's why I do what I do. Amazing story, man. I love to see life-changing stories, because now you do believe, just like I believe. And I know, I have seen the messages. I have seen, I have seen the signs. I have seen the signs. And because I've seen the signs, I said, you know what? This time I'm not going to ignore the signs. I'm going to listen to the signs. In fact, I'm going to prove that I'm going to listen to the signs. I'm proving to you that I'm listening to the signs, Lord. I turned back around and I did what I was supposed to do. I got away with it. And I did what I was supposed to do. So there's another sign. And I mean, I'm waiting for the next sign. And I'm like, Lord, have mercy. Anyway, I'm going to get on up out of here. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Mike Cross told you so. Peace out.